Hi, Andrew.
Hello, hello. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah.
Really excited to talk with you of a topic that I really care a lot about. Sounds like you do as well, which is destigmatizing mental health in the workplace. I would love to hear a little bit about you and your background and a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I currently work for Delta Defense, which is an organization up in West Bend from the Concealed Carry Association. And my job is a very unique position in the company. I provide mental health services to the entire organization. And that
Oh,
is completely free service for all of the employees of the company.
wow. You know what that actually it makes me think of that show. Was it Billions? Was that the show?
Yes, and that's something that people always say when we
Yeah.
talk about this. Rumor has it that's where the idea came from. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's been confirmed or not, but very similar to that. I haven't seen the show, but I heard there's some
Yeah.
unethical stuff there. So I would start by
Yes.
saying we're similar, but not completely the same.
I feel like anytime there's any mental health therapist on any sort of show, they're always doing some sketchy stuff for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that's really cool though. So that offering of being able to help individuals right there. So does that mean you're in the environment, like you have an office there and people can just
I have an office here. Right outside my door is the whole customer engagement team. We also have an offsite office if people are more comfortable doing it that way, just to really preserve confidentiality. But
cool.
we rarely use that because the people here have really embraced the normality of working on their mental well being. And so people really see it as a pride piece that they're coming in and having those conversations. And people
Yeah.
use the service from top down in the organization. So it is just a very normal thing for people to walk in and out of our office all day long.
Oh my gosh. That is really exciting. That is
Yeah.
really cool.
So when you talked about normalizing mental well being or mental health,
Yeah.
that is what Delta Defense is doing.
Yeah.
It has
Yeah.
become a integral part of the culture here. People talk about it openly. I'm going to have my meeting or my session. We ton inside the whole organization to really promote that. Work very hard at it because we all have mental well-being the same way that
Right.
physical well-being. I can run a mile in X amount of minutes, not as more than I would like, but I can run that mile. And the same thing is true for our mental well being. We have that set of resilience or that capability.
I love that too. How long have you been in the field? Making an assumption we're similar ages.
I graduated it with my master's in 2017.
Okay, okay, so you're probably quite a bit younger,
I'm
maybe a little
33.
younger. Yeah, okay, yep, a little bit younger, but still, right? We've been in this field then for a bit,
Mhm.
and being able to see the differences in how people really respond and react to mental health. It used to be, I know for me, it used to be where I'd see maybe a teenager and they were concerned about people knowing that they were doing therapy and then shifted over the last, I feel like over the last 10 years of teenagers constantly talking about it. My therapist says, or you would love my therapist and referring people to therapy, which honestly makes me wanna well up, like, it is incredible to see such a shift in the younger people and then seeing that as well in older individuals as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the one downside here is that I don't work with kids anymore. I used to, and I love
Yeah.
that part. But I would say I see the exact same thing with adults here at Delta. People referencing or talking about, hey, we talked about my session or whatever it might be that they're connecting to. And again, just normalizing the fact that they're going and they're having those conversations is really healthy.
Yeah. What are some of the things, some of the misconceptions that people might think about in regards to seeking mental health treatment or going to a counselor? What are some of the hangups, some of the things that people that get in the way for them?
The stigma, the fear, I see a lot with men and the whole masculinity thing around, I have to be able to figure this all out myself, or if I think about it long enough, I will just have the epiphany and it will be resolved. I think those are probably the two most common ones that I love to challenge and really unpack. Yeah.
I do too. I do too. And truth be told, I feel some of that too, right? Of I just want to be able to figure this out on my own.
And as a therapist too, you're supposed to know all those answers, and so it can be hard for
Yes.
people in our seat to go and do that the same way that we're encouraging our clients to. I think in many situations we should be doing that because otherwise we're being hypocritical. We've got to do what we're asking other people to do.
And the same idea, right? A doctor needs to see a doctor when they
Mm,
need to see a doctor. And
yeah.
that might be yearly, seeing a therapist, even just to vent or to run something by somebody else that's on the outside can be huge.
Yeah. Everybody has a
Yeah.
different style and a different need.
Yep. Yeah, going back to that, the vulnerability piece, that's changing in your environment for sure. Tell me a bit about how you do address that when somebody comes in and they might be feeling a bit of like that uncomfortable feeling, or, and I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah, my goal really is to meet the person where they're at, and that might just be having a conversation with them. There might be no treatment or goal set and anything at that first conversation or even the second conversation. Sometimes we need just to feel the person out and talk about whatever they're interested in that day so that we can establish the foundation, which really is the relationship as for any growth or change that comes after that. I think the first thing is always building the connection with the person.
Yeah. And taking that time if need be, because it's the rushing that might come out of us sometimes of, oh, we know we can get there. We know we can get there.
Uh,
And just being patient and holding that space and time for that individual to get there as they need to. It takes time. And some people can open up for a session. Other people, it might take years. And that's definitely okay because
and
everybody needs different times.
and it requires patience on our part and just be present with the person
Yes.
while they're building that trust, while they're building that connection before problems can get addressed and things can get worked on.
And sometimes the patience can be needed on the other end too, right? Of sometimes a client wants to feel like that movement so quickly. That can be another a huge piece of what needs to happen in order for somebody to really embrace like the process of what treatment and therapy can look like. So for you, are you doing more coaching? Is it a mixture? Tell me a bit about the type of work that you do.
So we call it life coaching, and that was done deliberately just to decrease stigma on the front end. And I had this conversation with an employee just recently about, is it coaching? Is it mentoring? Is it
Yeah.
actual therapy? What is our relationship? And I said, my relationship with you is different than my relationship with your counterpart, your supervisor, your direct report, your peer, because everybody needs something different. And so
Yeah.
it is a blend. I would say some of it's coaching, some of it is mentoring, some of it is true therapy. We're trained in EMDR. We're working on complex traumas from childhood and everything else. So there's a bit of several different layers here, which is fantastic for me. I get such variety
Yeah.
in my day. It's really great.
Yeah. Yeah. To be able to, with that client, with that person, be able to provide those things that they might need. I want to ask a bit about EMDR, just on a little bit of a tangent, because it does seem as though it's gaining a lot of, I don't want to say maybe popularity, but there's a lot more information out there now for EMDR. Would you mind actually just walking through a bit of that process for somebody that might not be familiar with it?
Yes, I hope I do it justice, because
Okay.
I am relatively new to the practice. So
Yeah.
I got trained about a year ago and went through all of the additional trainings and everything. So now I'm like completely good, but still learning and growing. Obviously, I'm very new to it yet. It's one of those fantastic kind of protocols that to me really addresses the history. People
Okay.
always seem to come in and they say, why am I like this? Why do I do this? Why is this happening? And being able to go back, the way I was trained is doing this timeline of
Mhm.
where you picked up these thought processes and these behavioral patterns and these core beliefs.
Yeah.
connecting it to some of their life experiences, and then being able to, in a weird way, revisit those experiences,
Yeah.
diminish the distress, and have that memory be there, but not have it be so potent is
Oh,
just, it's very powerful, really
yeah.
powerful.
Yeah. And that's what seems to be partially why I think it's gaining so much acknowledgement is because of the effectiveness of it. Obviously there needs to be a lot more feel like research and everything in the mental health area. We just need to be putting more time and resources into it. But that is what I definitely hear from clients at Shoreside. We also have a couple individuals that are being trained right now actually in that. They do other trauma work and find that is really a great way to get somebody to be in there in that moment to some extent, but then also being able to have those resources in the moment.
Yeah, where I said one foot in the past and one foot in the present, and you're walking in balance. Yeah. Not to be dramatic, but I feel like EMDR is a concept or a tool that is going to allow us to work ourselves out of a job in the best way possible. Because I've had a number of people come back and say, yeah, we talked about that. I'm not even sure why, though. It's really not that big of a deal anymore. And it's just this light bulb of, oh my gosh, we're resolved, we're done, we're buttoned up. And I haven't experienced that as a therapist prior using other tools and concepts. You're still tracking growth and whatnot. The EMDR framework seems to just be so powerful and
Yeah.
productive for people.
The time when I have experienced those moments is a similar type of therapy. It's not obviously identical. It's the IFS work. And it does seem like there are similarities to some of those experiences of it becoming something that was significant and working through it makes somebody feel completely different afterwards. How did that actual feeling, the actual physical feeling just go away? And it can be like almost freaky to a client, like,
Yeah.
where is that thing now? Where is that anxiety? Where is that whatever that feeling is that seems to be always with them?
Well, you
So
get
it's
so
really
used to
cool.
it being there. And then that
Yes.
anxious part or that depressed part, whatever it might be, is now gone. It's
Yeah.
liberating, but at the same time, it's new and different. And that can be weird too.
Yes. Yes. Like eating with the opposite hand kind of a
Yeah. That
feeling.
awkward
Yeah.
feeling. That's perfect.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so I would love to hear too a bit going back to the topic of destigmatizing mental health. I'm curious in what you think would be some things that we can do as a community. What are some things we could do as therapists that would possibly help help that stigma to decrease even more? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think done a fantastic model. And that's something all businesses can leverage or do. And so I think as therapists in the community, just offering lunch and learns and coming in and doing a group topic on anything that is really relatable. I always think about what can I present to this group that 95% of them can connect to in some way and still have it be concentrated enough that it is something useful for them. If there's tools or concepts, people love the language, they love the tools, something that they can take and use. So I always encourage therapists go out and connect with businesses and ask, can I come in and give a lunch and learn
Yeah.
or run an hour long group session to teach and talk about this? The more that gets out, I think it just trickles down. People become more comfortable with it. It becomes normal by degrees.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. If they are involved in a presentation hour long amount of time and this is the topic, and it could just start more and more conversations just by that lunch and learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, can I ask then, how did you get this opportunity to be where you're at, like in house type of therapy? Because I don't know if besides the show, I don't know how that comes to be. How did somebody know, okay, this is what we need here?
Yeah,
Very
there's
curious.
it's very unique. So our CEO, and I'm not breaking any confidentiality here, he's openly shared and given this permission. He was working through some difficulty in his life and he went and saw a counselor. And after they were closing things up, ready to move forward, he said, "Hey, I want you to come work for my company." She said, "No way." She was at the pinnacle of her career at that time, working for a private practice up here in West Bend. And he convinced her to come and start working at Delta, doing exactly what we're doing
Wow.
right now. And then the company grew. And a couple years later, she called me. She was my clinical supervisor. So I had worked with her running groups, and just supervisions and whatnot along the years. And so she called me and asked if I would be interested in the opportunity as well. And that's my journey here.
Oh,
And then with two of us, we're able to collaborate. We're able to expand into different services that we're providing the company, which has been really exciting as
I feel like the collaboration with having 2 can be really huge
well.
because
Yeah, I
just
couldn't do it alone. I could not.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
when I was working more on my own, I did have my partner Brandon, and we were at least able to, "Let's talk. We need a little bit of talking time to collaborate or to figure something out,
Yeah, you
or
need that
we're having
support.
a rough day." Yeah, that's really cool. That is such a good story.
And that's the reason that I'm here. I want to promote this idea because
Yeah,
I think there's tons and tons of studies and research out there about the return on investment as far as providing services to your employees, taking good care of them. They stay longer, they live better, they enjoy their work life, the culture's better. So many great benefits, but yet companies still don't invest in it for one reason or another. And so
right.
when you ask the question, what can therapists do? What can businesses do? What Delta's doing to me is the gold standard. You
Mhm.
don't have to do it that way. You can have a once a month group training or a class or something from the local therapist. And again, just building that sense of the employee's health and being matters. And so we're going to invest, we're going to take the time, and we're going to bring a resource in and provide that space for them. So I think that there's a lot that organizations can
That idea of it needing to be an all or nothing isn't true, right? Like, you can
absolutely.
have we know that. Yeah, I am seeing that a bit more now as well of companies doing that, having more mental health therapists or educators going in and doing that type of work. It's really cool because people are able to, in that hour, talk freely, whatever they're comfortable with, of sharing these stories. And it doesn't have to be this very intimate story, but even sharing a little thing that happened that made somebody feel a certain way, and somebody else on that call, if there's 60 people, 100 people on the call, they're going to relate to it and say, I had that same thing.
And that is the normalizing that we're after, right?
Yeah.
Where one person does it and then they see, oh, it's safe. I can do it too.
Yep.
And then a third and a fourth and a fifth. And that is a symbol to all the employees that their employer cares about them and that they're taking that time and putting that effort into their well-being.
When I was in school, I waited for the 3rd person, maybe
Yeah.
4th or to share for sure. I wanted them know, okay, am I okay saying this? Am I okay if I stumble on my words? Is it okay if I get emotional? Or I feel like that the more that people are allowing that open communication, the better. And it'll just feed off of each other in a positive way, you
That's
know?
the best way. Yeah.
Maybe you don't have a sheet of the statistics on this information, but I am curious what's the actual research in having somebody come in and do work or have somebody on site, retention rate, and the overall well being.
I don't have any of that memorized. There's a lot of studies from a couple of the big consulting firms, McKinsey and Deloitte, and some of these huge firms talk about return on investment, just
Yeah.
investing in mental health services. And they don't specify having an in house person like we do at Delta, but they're broadly saying if you're investing in employee well being, whether it's EAP or it's these educational services, that there is that return.
I I guess I know that to some degree, but to hear it out loud, to hear that, okay, this really does actually have a positive impact. We know that internally it would, and we would know that talking about different coping skills or talking about different tools, what that can do for the person. But what does it do for the community is another aspect.
And I'll say just specifically for Delta, we just won top 40 places to work across the country
God.
by Newsweek for that culture, for living the values that we preach, that we discuss here. And a part of that is really the investment in our health, our mental health services, the program that we offer here. We've got our core values and the 5 H's. We talk about being healthy, hungry, happy, honest, and humble. And that hunger, that growth is part of getting an outside perspective. And of course, the
Yeah.
health there too. So the company putting its money where its mouth is and really investing in its employees creates this incredible culture that's getting pretty significant waves based on their size across the
Yeah.
country. So it's pretty exciting.
With clients that I will hear a lot is a lot of times people are coming in about their jobs to some degree, or it's a part of the discussion. And some of it, some of the things I might hear are, okay, my company says that they care about these things, but they're not really showing it.
Mm.
And, or you can get the sense maybe that they do care about those things, but don't even know where to start, or are concerned about the financial piece. That's always a factor in how a business runs. We can't forget about that. But knowing that, okay, there is actually a of investment in it. I can't imagine a better way to show employees that you care about them and their well being than having some of the mental health services right there, or having somebody come in and saying, okay, take an hour out of your day,
It's
and
worth it.
we want you to take that hour out of your day to do that. It's
Absolutely.
incredible.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, it is interesting that it is novel, right? Because the thing that came to my mind was that schools offer that, right? And how necessary that is in schools, and why would that be any different?
For adults, we are just
Yeah,
big little kids after all.
we run into the same kind of things, just
Yeah.
they just look a little different.
Yes.
But yeah, same kind of conflict, same kind of having a bad day, or today I just, I don't want to get out of bed, or whatever those things are.
Yeah. And you mentioned so much of the people come in that talk with you are talking about work stuff. We spend so much time at work.
Yeah.
So much of our life is spent at work. And we should enjoy that. We should be enjoying that time. And that there's a transfer there. What we experience at work comes home. What we experience home comes to work.
Yeah.
Gone are the days of just separating those two and leave work at work and home at home.
Right.
We know now that we're not robots and that human transfer happens organically. We can't stop it.
Yeah. We're not robots yet. We're not robots yet.
True.
Time.
That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Anything else that I might have missed today that you would want to let people know before we end?
I also want to honor that there is risk there when you go to a supervisor and say, hey, we want to bring a therapist in, or we want some type of mental health services, more resources for our employees. There's fear and there's uncertainty about how
Yeah.
they're going to respond and react. And that's something that people are still facing. That's really difficult. So it's a tough world out there.
And acknowledging that there are still there's still barriers. There's
Yeah.
still things where you don't always know how someone's going to respond. You have to think about those things as well. How would my employer respond to something like that? More and more, though, hopefully that's being entered in employee satisfaction and the conversation about, okay, we do need something like this. And it's new, like you said. So we don't have the answers right now, but the awareness piece is huge, of knowing that this is possible is huge.
Absolutely. Successfully, very successfully, if
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for being here today. It was a lot of
Absolutely.
fun talking with you.
Thank you for having me. Time.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Andrew.
You bet, Lori.
Bye.